It's funny. I think it's funny. I always laugh because I think sports is like one of the only things where a player has to comment on like a shitty game, like right after a shitty game. Imagine if you had like a bad thing happen in your life. I wouldn't want to comment on it. And I feel for like
Terrible.
athletes. Um, but I'm excited to have you because you're like we talked off pod. You've done a lot of cool shit. But where did it like you work in sports? Like that's kind of a generalization, but where did that love come from? Like former athlete, it's in the family, it was your calling, like what brought you to, because you represent W athletes, represent NBA players, you've worked at ESPN, you're doing a lift, is that the full, it's just it goes by lift, like where
Yep.
did that love for sports start?
I mean, I was probably my dad and my brother sort of like raised by boys. I mean, I was raised by my mom, but like boys and like sports, I was such a tomboy growing up. So like getting to play sports with my older brother and his friends, and they were all really good athletes. My dad was a great athlete. It just was like the norm for me. Like my mom would be like, "It's Sunday, do you want to come to church with me?" And I'd be like, "No, I'm going to stay home with dad and watch football." Like it was just natural. It was a natural fit being around like my brother, being around my dad, just having that. We
Yeah.
would watch baseball, football, basketball, whatever it was. So I just grew up on it, like from that standpoint. Um, but it honestly like dawned on me very late in life that I could have a career in sports. I don't know if that's because I'm a woman, and back then like you just didn't see it as often. Certainly different now, or if it was just like I don't know. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, go to an Ivy
Yeah.
League school and be a lawyer or whatever I wanted to do. And maybe, becoming a lawyer would have sort of catapulted, all right, now I want to be a sports agent with a law degree. You don't have to have a law degree to be an agent, but certainly helpful. And so, yeah, I don't know, like maybe it was like a subliminal thing for me from early on. But yeah, I feel like I discovered that desire very late in life. Like I could have probably right out of high school gone and started at ESPN and like worked my way up from mailroom PA and cut to 20 years later like running it. I mean, I had a great run there, so I'm still, it's not a disappointment by any means, but like I certainly could have like jumped into the career and the profession a lot earlier.
Yeah, and you touched on it, and we've seen it, being a woman, you don't really see other people that one look like you or have a place somewhere you're like, oh, I could achieve to do that. Like that's cool. I sees that. And that's why I was excited to talk to you because I was like, wow, you are goals, like in the truest sense that if I, knowing like what you do, which is really cool because as someone who also like has similar aspirations in different ways, I'm like, oh, cool. There's someone out there that's done it already. And the fact that, back then that wasn't a thing. Do you think things would
Right.
have been very different? Like you said, you would have just jumped into ESPN probably right out of college, you think, if things had been kind of what they are today?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I even think like I would have jumped right out of high school. I mean, I played basketball in college, so that was an experience that I had that I wouldn't trade. But if I think about, and this is going to be very unpopular, but if I think about college and like what I learned from a degree in mass communications, media studies, minor or whatever, I could have gotten, I could have done this job that I do now without that college degree, and I could have done any of the jobs I've had in sports without that college degree. Because what this industry is like you have to sink to swim. Like you just have to get in there and do it, and
Mhm.
succeed and fail, and fail more often than succeed until you learn it. And it's about relationships. So it's about having the longevity, being likable, being in it and breathing it. And, that's where you see a lot of these, relationships and success, and you thrive. And so honestly, out of high school, I could have gone straight to Bristol to be a PA at ESPN. And like I said, I would have had a pension if I had done that. I went to college to play basketball, and academically college was very easy. It was easy in high school. It was easy in college. If I think about what I actually learned in college, it was more like societal functions and like how the world works.
Mhm.
And I was in college during September 11th, so there was a mixed bag of like trauma and being adolescent and all these things, and having a college experience with something like that happening to the world and just to humanity. So like, could I have gone straight from college? Absolutely. Could I have gone straight from high school? Absolutely. And had I done those things, I think I'd be in the same position. Maybe I would have stayed at ESPN, to be honest with you. So I'm not sure if it's a blessing in disguise or not, but I know I would have had a pension. So that is the only thing that'll like really be my regret at this point.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll figure out some way, some loophole that ESPN's gonna, like, call you up, you manifest it, be like, "Here's your pension." Um,
No, I think like all most companies stopped giving out pensions, well, I wanna say like 2006, 2007 and beyond, so
of course,
yeah,
right before the recession. Look at that.
yeah, yeah.
Incredible timing.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah. Uh
That's why they're great, thriving, successful businesses still.
Oh, man. That's a whole I could do a whole thing on that. That's a whole
Right.
different TED Talk. I can get on that soapbox. Um, I'm curious because you played ball in college, and NIL is a thing now, and you represent W athletes. Do you think had you been a hooper in this generation, do you think you would have pursued what a lot of athletes are doing, the whole NIL, become a brand? Do you think you would have had that mindset to be like, "You know what? I'm gonna do this," or do you think you would have kinda done the same, just like, "I'm gonna focus on ball and school?"
No, I definitely would have been a great candidate for NIL because I was a great student. School was easy for me. I could basically do it in my sleep. Honestly, I didn't have to spend a lot of time on school and still make A's, and
Yeah.
it'd be great and learn and retain. Um, Basketball wise, I was a good player, like D1 player. You know what I mean? I was never going to go to the league. I think then the WNBA was like just coming up. There was like the ABL, like Jennifer Azzi was like the big name. Um, especially in the Bay Area, right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't that good of a basketball player. Like I was no Angel Reese, no Caitlin Clark, no Paige Beckers. But what I was like, I think I would have been super savvy on the social side. I think I would have
Mhm.
been super savvy on the NIL. Like I was personable. I had a like charisma. I had a good personality. I could talk to anybody. I could sell anybody on anything. So I actually think I would have done well in an NIL era and a social media era
Yeah.
because I lean fully into social now. Like I actually fancy myself quite good at it. I don't know if everyone else agrees with that all the time, but I think I'm nice. So I'd have done okay. Like I said, I don't know if I'd have made angel money. I don't know if I'd have made Bronny James money, but I'd have been all right. I'd have done all right for myself.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I mean, you kinda touched on all the things that you're good at, which make you a great agent, right? Because that's all the stuff
Yeah.
that probably would have translated, you would have done it as a player and then done it for your friends and, like, other people like, "Hey, you wanna come represent me?" And I think you would have still probably, like you said, ended up on the same path you are at now.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I always thought I would want to go to law school, Harvard, be a lawyer, Cornell, something like that. I had an opportunity to play basketball at Cornell. D1. They don't give athletic scholarships back then, so it was all academic, which was fine and great. I didn't go because I didn't want to go live in Ithaca, New York, because I just didn't. I'm a California kid, so I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know if I want to go that far from home just yet. I can figure this out at Cal Berkeley or UCLA or whatever on the West Coast. Um, but I do feel like, yeah, I would have probably been a lawyer first, and then I would have gone somehow into sports law, right? So entertainment law. So I feel like it would have come full circle, and I'd have been back here regardless.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's an awesome story, which I'm curious, you've probably seen it all. You represent, like we talked about, both W and NBA athletes. What's kind of your take on the state of whether it's like we can talk about like a state of play because the play is like unreal right now, and I think we're having a really cool, especially with W. I'm
Yeah,
really excited. I had Lindsay Darkangelo on the pod, and we were kind of talking about like the state, like the parity's there. There's no like super like the couple, let's say like 10, 15 years ago it was the same top 3, 4, 5 schools. Everyone wanted to go to college at those schools, and we all know those names. Now it's like, oh, you watch
yeah.
any game, you're like, oh, this like state school is like showing up for this Power 5 school. What's your take on it? Especially because you represent these women, and you're going to represent probably some more of them once they get into the league. What's your? I mean, are you excited about it? Do you feel like we're hitting our peak? Like, what's your take on it?
I hope we're not at our peak. I hope we're just like in a little plateau. Like we've got some momentum, but I hope we keep, climbing brick by brick. I hope we never peak, like honestly. And I don't think we have to. Like I think you sort of like make your own plateau, you make your own peak. Like I think we can continue to move it forward.
Yeah,
Like there's always a way, especially with new technology, AI, social, the marketing legislature that's sort of like governing and changing daily, in the college in NIL. Um, yeah, I think that, there's this level of us sort of like, what was interesting that you said being at a state school versus like a Power Five, but like LSU is a state school, right?
yeah.
Well, like a state university. I see it's different in Louisiana than it is in California, but
I was
like at
just
a
having this
state,
conversation with
right?
somebody. Yeah, I was like,
It's
state schools have a
confusing.
different, like, reputation in California than I think other
Yeah.
states. Yeah.
State schools here are like beneath like universities. Like, so it's, of course, Stanford, the private, and then you've got UCLA and Berkeley. Like those are UCs. And then you've got the state schools, and it's like, Cal State, and it's somehow like lesser, but it's not. It's fantastic, and you can go anywhere now, and kids are doing it. But in Louisiana, I'm not sure how it works. So if LSU is a state school, that's one powerful state school, I gotta
Yeah.
say. Um, but yeah, like before, you'd go to Stanford, you'd go to UConn, you'd go to Tennessee.
Mhm.
Now it's like Ohio State's putting great shooters in the draft. Maryland is creating amazing ball players. Texas A&M like putting up like great ball players. You got USC coming up. UCLA has always probably been like in the conversation. South Carolina, like I mean, having Dawn there and like what they have become now, I don't know that that was ever. There's always been like an outlier school
Mhm.
that has been sort of around, right? Notre Dame and some of these other programs. But like, yeah, it's like UConn, Tennessee, Stanford, and like that's where you wanted to go if you were a basketball player. And the cream of the crop went, and everyone else sort of like was sort of non-competitive in a sense. Like you knew you weren't going to beat those teams in the
Yeah.
Final Four. So now it's different. There's a lot more parity in college for sure. In the pros, I mean, I want to say there's parity, and there probably is for like 10 of the 12 teams. I think there's a couple of programs that are like Cal State. They're
I'm
a
glad
little
you said
lesser.
that. I'm glad you said that because there's definitely is way more parity in the college game than
Yeah,
the league itself. And I think honestly, I don't know if you have this opinion. I think it's going to change. When Golden State announced they're adding a team, you
yeah,
saw what they invested, the money, the team behind it. I think that was kind of like putting everyone else on notice. Like you got to be at the aces level. You got to be at the Liberty level of putting in the dollars for marketing and helping your athletes and doing all the things. I think it put everyone like, okay, the bar just got raised, and I hope that happens across those other teams that aren't exactly bringing it in that way because we kind of saw that with the way the finals went in the playoffs. Like it was everyone knew beginning of the season it was most likely going to be Liberty Aces, and it was Liberty
right,
Aces. And
right.
look at that, it's the teams that put the money into marketing and put the investment into their athletes. So I hope we get more parity across that. Do you think we
Yeah,
will? Do you think like maybe the league got put on notice with that expansion?
yeah. I mean, I'll start with college. Like, did you think LSU was going to win it last year? Not a chance, right? Like,
No.
there's just parity. Like,
Yeah.
Iowa has no business being in a championship game, but Caitlin Clark can keep anybody in any game and like make the players around her better. You expected South Carolina and Stanford to be there. You expect UConn to be around if they're all healthy. But like no one had LSU. I mean, even with Kim Mulkey coming there, like Angel was as we see now and look back is completely capable and a winner and can lead a team. But like I don't think anyone thought that prior to. And then look what happens in the W. You've got the Aces, you've got the Liberty, powerful, star-studded teams and rosters. But the Connecticut Sun have had success for a long time, and they've got a great new coach in Stephanie White. Like they just do things right in Connecticut, and they're always going to be there. They churn out MVPs, John Quell, AT, right? The LA Sparks are 3-time champs. The Minnesota Lynx are what 3-4-time champs. The Seattle Storm are 3-time champs, right? The Phoenix Mercury are winning championships and have a great core. Chicago's won them. Like Indiana, Dallas. I think 10 of the teams are there, and I think 10 of the teams have been there, and I think 10 of the teams do a really fantastic job. The Mystics have won several. I mean,
Mhm.
they've had success and will continue to, and create marquee players. So, like, I don't think that like Vegas and the Liberty are going to be in the finals every single year per se. I think the Aces are going to be back there next year to defend a three-peat, but I don't know that the Liberty are. Like just as easily, Connecticut could be there.
Yeah.
Dallas might be one player away from being there. Shit, LA, depending on who they get with the number 2 pick, with NECA and like that core of like Lexi and Jordan, like they might be one player away. So I think I don't know that there's more parity in the pro game. I just think there's parity across the board for in women's sports.
Oh yeah. No, and I agree totally. And I'm curious because I grew up playing basketball and it's just a different era now than when I grew up. Like we didn't have I'm gonna age myself a little bit. You don't have YouTube, you don't have highlights, you don't have the ability to see someone that kind of looked like you playing the game, right? You can now there's every way TikTok, YouTube, any other way to see someone that looks like you. The W is more popular than ever. So you have more
Yeah.
hoopers. I my take is this current generation is the first real generation that grew up with the W being kind of solidified because of their age of how, like, I think of like the current senior class. So I think of like the Paige Beckers of the world. They grew up seeing like the Sue Birds of the world. Like we
Are
saw
they seniors or are they COVID seniors? Like, you know what I
COVID.
mean?
Yeah, yeah, right. They're seniors of the Masters.
Paige, Caitlin, Angel, Cam can all come back.
Yeah, yeah,
I
but
mean,
they're like
you know,
age as far as like they all grew
yeah,
up, yeah, watching,
same class. Yeah.
women playing basketball. Whereas like that I think is the way that we're seeing that they made it more accessible and possible. So I'm curious, like, what's kind of your take on like why basketball is so popular? Because mine is that like, this group of seniors, COVID seniors, they got to see the W a little more fleshed out. They got to see, the technology of seeing more than, okay, we had the same four channels growing up. And were we going to see
Right.
women's players on TV? Most likely not. Now with more accessibility, you can see stuff. And I think this generation's the first one. Do you think that's what's drawing like more just girls playing ball? Or do you think it's AAU? Do you think it's kind of all the things?
Probably a great combination of all the things. I don't know that I am well versed enough in, like, especially on the women's side of AAU. I'm a little more aware and cognizant of the men's AAU. I know
Mhm.
the women's AAU is incredibly important. I think women probably don't get the same sort of like push until they get to college that the boys do. But the women's college programs are great. Obviously, they've been great fillers for the league. I wish college programs focused a little more on individual skill development than on just hanging banners in gyms and working in a system. I think when these young women get to the WNBA, their personal skill development lacks a little bit. Maybe they don't have the jumper, they don't have the handle. Those things come in like 2 or 3 years, and they become the Asia Wilson, the Kelsey Plum, the Sabrina Ionescu that like you expected them to be in college, but then they get to the W and there's a transition. It takes a little bit of time, and then they either come into their own. Like, I'll say this, I think you see a lot less flops in the women. Sorry, not flops, but like, yeah, I guess like a draft flop. Like you see a lot less flops in that regard in the women's game. Like I know there's talk that like, every year there's a lottery pick that is out of the league in the next year or whatever. That's just a factor of the CBA having a hard cap and there
Yeah.
only being 12 teams and there not being roster expansion and not yet being team expansion, league expansion. So like that's like a product of something else. That doesn't necessarily have to do with that player's skill. That player might deserve to be in the W. There's just not enough spots. It also, to me, means that like maybe GMs are a little more suspect than we give them credit for too. Like, how are you drafting? You see a lot of those draft flops in the NBA though. I
Yeah.
think that's the thing that I notice more about the WNBA. Like we're pretty like even across the board. Like these women can play. They play. They're most of them are at the same level. There are a few elite players for sure, but there's not like shitty players in the W. You know what I mean?
No.
Like all 144, give or take, minus plus, can play and like can be in this league. And then there's even, a handful of others from Athletes Unlimited and overseas that could probably play in this league too. There's just no spots for them.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I see the parity. I see the parity across like the league, like the players. I think the players are all even. I'm not saying that everybody is Stewie and everybody's Asia. But I mean that like the blue collar of the WNBA is like pretty even. It's a
Oh
wide
yeah. I mean,
a
I think
wide
you
net.
you nailed it with the fact that I think if we were to pull up the numbers, the women that aren't on rosters is just because there's no spots. It's not because they can't play. Whereas
Right.
NBA, you see more like they drafted the 8 overall. Where is he now? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
plenty of roster spots in the
Out
NBA.
of the league.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's out of the league. He's
There's 400
overseas
there's
somewhere.
450 players in the NBA.
Oh dang! I didn't. Oh wow! I didn't even realize it was that
Yeah.
high. That's what 4 times as much, 3 times as much. My math is not good.
Four times.
4 times.
Yeah, four times as much. Like they are.
Wow. I hope there's a time in the future, and I think there will be, where we have that many spots in the W, and we can have the conversation. Could just be like, "Hey, she just wasn't there. There wasn't a spot for her. Just that there was someone else
Yep.
better. It's a skill set thing." That'd be cool if
Yep.
we got to that point. Um,
Yep.
you represent W athletes. You represent Sydney Colson. And I mean, I would love to talk to you about, you launched the Syd TP Show. I know it wasn't just you. I know you had like a team behind you. Where did
Oh
that
no,
idea?
it was just me. No,
It's just you. It's just you. Just
no, it's a lot of people. A lot of people, I promise.
where did that idea come from? Because I mean, if anyone follows Syd, like her tweets alone, like she just needs a camera on her. Is that kind of where the idea came from? Like she needs a camera on
Yeah.
her. Like let's get it on her.
It honestly came from like Sydney's brain.
Oh,
Like Dead ass. Like, and also when TP got involved, like, so Sydney had this vision. We met a couple Final Fours ago in Minnesota, and I coveted her. I was like, I just want to work with you, dude. Like, I just do. Like, there's something about you off court, like basketball, whatever. Like I'm not that I'm not interested, but like basketball is here. Like, I want to work with you off the court. I want to try to find opportunities for you off the court. So what do you want to do? Well, she tells me she has an acting coach. She tells me she does stand up, improv. I'm like, oh, like, you're like a bona fide actor. Like,
Yeah.
this is like Hollywood. Like, you should be writing scripts. You should be producing. You should be creating. You should be starring. You should be doing stand up. You should be hosting SNL. Like, those are the types of things that I found out about her right away. And I thought, like, it wasn't even like, how can we make you money in marketing, like a shoe deal, whatever. Like, a lot of those types of deals are tied to performance, right? In marketing. But in content, it has nothing to do with how well you bounce a basketball. It's about your personality, and it's about your brain and your creative. So
Oh, and you
she's the
I mean, Sid is all of those things. Like
all of them.
like not to take away
Anna
from the
Hooper,
basketball
Anna
playing.
Hooper too, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, she
yeah,
can hoop, and that's like a bonus, but she is hilarious. She's smart.
yeah,
Her timing is my favorite thing. Like, her timing is so good and her delivery.
yeah,
So it was just one of those. It's funny. I was at the same Final Four. So you just had this moment. You're like, I need to work with you, and then you guys got
yeah.
like a show was like the first move.
We start working together. I'm picking at her like, how, what are you thinking? What are you hot on right now? Like, what are you creating in your mind? I've always had this idea, to do kind of like a man on the street sort of improv, sort of, she might not use these exact words, but like, somewhere between like a scripted, non-scripted, where we're, doing some, Billy Eichner type stuff, and we're being silly and stupid, but then we also have some like curated pieces, and I want to sort of like tap into that, and I have this teammate, by the way, and I didn't know which teammate she was going to say. I was like, she's gonna, one of the aces. And she was like, I have this teammate, by the way, her name's Teresa Plaisance, and we're like best friends, and we're just so good together. We have this like
They
this
are
duo
so
and
good.
this
They're so
timing and this
good.
chemistry, and we're just, so I think like we should do something together. It was as simple as that. And then it was like, okay, let's, that little nugget of idea, I call my good friends together, and I just say, hey, let's get on a call. Like, you guys got to hear some of these ideas that Syd has. Would you guys be interested in, maybe doing like a digital show, like something for socials, right? We didn't really go into it thinking like, let's do a Netflix show. Like, you don't really go into that with your format. You have a vision of where you think it'll be distributed, but like, you can never guarantee that sale. So we went in thinking, let's just make a really cool like digital show, not a podcast, but like, just something that we could put out in a limited run, 4 6 eps or whatever, that are just them being stupid. And together was all aboard. Rennie Callister actually was the EVP of content, and said, I want to do this. And like, I want to try to get this thing sold. And true to her word, she did. She took it to the maximum effort. Fubo contingent. Ryan Reynolds had just launched his vertical there. They were looking for content. They definitely wanted to make sure they were represented with women, whether that was W or soccer. And they loved Syd and TP, and they bought the show. They ordered 10 episodes, and we had like an actual like streaming cable deal, which is crazy for women. Number one, even crazier for women not named Asia or Stewie or Candace, like, it's crazy to be benchwarmers, literally. Like, sometimes maybe DMP, and like have your own self-titled comedy show on streaming cable. Like, it's a TV channel for all intents and purposes for
Yeah.
people who consume now. You have a subscription to Fubo, you turn it on, you see it on a big TV screen or on your phone or your laptop or however you watch it. It's crazy that happened. That doesn't happen. So, and like I said, Rennie championed this thing all the way through. There were others at together. Kwani Carr, our director, Carly Ustin, like our writer Rashida Sheeds, like, who's blowing up, like, who's gonna win Emmys like up the ass. Like, she's not gonna stop winning Emmys, honestly. From Jury Duty, she's in a new Marvel joint. Like, the team that was put together, that just like meshed with Syd and TP. And then it was really important to me and to Syd and TP to fight to get them on as writers and get them writer credit. This is all pre-strike too, right?
Yeah.
Producer credit. We couldn't get the created by. I wanted that. That's difficult. But they really did write it. They really did produce it, and they really did star in it. And it was honestly their creation. It was literally Sydney Colson's idea.
Yeah.
So, and then a village comes together, and they actually create the ideas of it. But it was really her nugget.
I mean, it was one of those things that, like, how did it not happen sooner kind of things? Because everybody, I mean, just the general consensus across, like, all the timelines, everyone just ate it up. Because and
Mm,
the fact that I love that they leaned into the joke of, like, they are wanna be the faces of the league. They're admittedly not, the Asias and the Stewies and the Candaces of the world, but they owned that, which I think made it even funnier, which is, like, also authentically them. Like, they could have done,
yeah.
like, them or any athlete could do a cash grab, right, and go for the easy stuff, but they leaned into their brand, which I think everyone loved even more because it didn't feel fake. Like if Syd did something that was like totally left field of what we know her for, but it was so her. And
What is left field of Syd? I don't think Syd has a
honestly,
left field. Like,
saying that, I can't think of
she's the
anything
whole
that
ballpark.
she is.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything that if like they're like Syd Colson's announcing this, I would. And there's nothing that I'd be shocked about. Like
No.
all of it's on the
Yeah.
table for her.
Like that tracks. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'll be like that. Yeah, that checks out. How was it from like has it? I feel like it's led to other things, right? They were at the Players Ball for women's. Are
Yep.
they kind of a duo now? Are they going to do more things as the two of them?
I hope forever. And they love it too. And they've leaned in. Yeah. I mean, they did the Deloitte commercials, right, with
Oh,
Diana
that was so
Taurasi and
good.
Sil Fowles. And that was like, again, unprecedented. Like, those are paid opportunities that women don't get, stars don't get, and certainly, guys at the end of the bench, like the 11th and 12th players on rosters, don't get. So it was huge for them. Like, and also standing in a commercial with DT and Sylvia. Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, you expect to see those guys. Um, so are they a duo forever? Like I said, I hope so. They lean in, they love it. We do a lot of stuff. We're going to be in New York next week doing features and media and touring the Empire State Building and doing like a TED Talk at Soho House. And
That's cool.
what else? Yeah, they just hosted the U.S. Women's National Team Players Ball, and did a wonderful tribute to Ali Krieger, Rapino, and Julie Ertz as well. They weren't there present. They weren't present. Ali was. And then Trinity Rodman and Midge Purse, and they, like Crystal Dunn. They got to meet these superstars from the soccer world who they idolize and they love, and have been blown away by, and been like, oh, I want to do something with that person. And so when the two unions can come together, like the women's soccer union and the women's basketball union, women's soccer union, by the way, they're top dogs, like first class. They were like, we want to do more crossover stuff, so we want Syd and TP to come out. We want to marry these two worlds, because like we have to standing up for women, right? And
Yeah.
like uniting, and like that was a beautiful thing for me to see. I think it's something that's going to catch fire and keep happening. And them being a duo, it's already caught fire. So I hope they want to continue to just do anything together. Like, hell yeah, why not? Like, always. I mean, obviously Sid will do some things on her own, TP will do some things on her own, but also like, why? Like, let's just do them together. Everyone
Yeah.
loves you guys together, and they don't step on each other. Like, you can still be authentically you individually, even with TP sitting next to you or Sid sitting next to you. So they understand that, and if it creates more opportunities, we'll do it all day long.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the perfect like pairing. It's also just the basketball and soccer blend together. I
Yeah.
was like, this makes sense because they did an Angel City thing. Which I was like, okay,
Yes, for
hopefully
the
that I
show.
yeah, on the show. I was like, okay, maybe that's gonna tease, they're gonna do more soccer stuff just because there is a blend, like women's sports supports women's sports. And if we
Yeah.
can lift up both sides, I think that was sick. So shout out to you. I know there was a whole team that you listed, but the fact that one, and you're also in the show. Was that your idea to be in the show?
Hell no. No. I'm also not the type of agent that's like, give me an EP credit. Like, I'm going to do the work regardless of how you credit me, because they're my clients. So like,
Yeah.
if they win, I win. And it's also, who cares about me winning? I just want them to win. Even if I didn't win on the back, like, as long as they're winning, you know?
Yeah.
So no, it was never like, give me some sort of credit. It was never like, put me in the show. You know how it goes when you're in production and someone bails on this, or there's a schedule change, or we got to shoot this scene. Like, can you get your shit together? And I was in Vegas, like in bed. I'm like, yeah, I don't do like the hair and makeup thing. So I was like, I can make it work. Is there a script? Carly, our director, is like, no, we're gonna just improv. You're gonna be fine. And I'm like, what? All right. So now I'm just sitting in that boardroom, and they are literally railing off. Like, that was a presentation put together by one of the EPs, Kwani, and it was brilliant. And
So
it was
funny.
Sheets had written most of the show before the strike, but this particular one, with the strike, now we had to improvise a lot. We had to go non-scripted on a lot of things that were actually supposed to be scripted. And so we sort of throw this thing together. Carly's directing, and it's just mayhem in there, but it worked. It
So
was like
funny.
organized chaos. They just are silly, and they go to these places, and it's really easy for a person untrained like myself to just follow along, because like they did all the hard work, and I just had to sit there and try not to laugh and hit a couple of sound bites that Carly would throw at me, and make sure you say it like this, just being so smart. But it was easy. I mean, it was
Yeah.
fun and it was easy, and I literally played myself as they're playing themselves. Me playing myself as the agent is super easy. Like, I didn't have to be an actor. Syd and TP playing themselves in their own self-titled sketch show is more difficult than you think. It's probably easier to just be an actor playing someone else than to like play yourself and like grapple in the
Yeah.
mind about, am I being myself authentically or am I not? And is that gonna so I don't know how they did it. Honestly, they impressed the shit out of all of us. I think you expected Syd to be phenomenal because she has a coach and she does this. She acts, she writes, she does comedy. TP, I didn't know TP before this. I didn't know what to expect from TP before this. She wasn't as forward, positioned in like the W community on social as Syd is. So you see content of Syd all the time. When TP came in and basically stole the show, like TP was like, "You're a professional. You are a serious
Yeah.
professional actor. Like, how are you this good at this?" And for TP, it's like, what isn't she good at? You know what I mean? So
Oh,
it was just awesome to watch. Yeah, they
oh,
were
it was
just
so funny, and I
classic.
mean, I was wondering, I was like, "Are you wearing?" Because you wear sunglasses in that clip. I was like, "Is she doing
Yeah,
it to make sure she doesn't laugh?" Like, I don't know how you didn't laugh. I would have been losing it because of the shit they were
they were
saying.
dark.
Yeah.
I got to shout them out. They were my nice Louis Vuitton
Oh,
frames, and they're heavy and they're dark. And yeah, but we decided collectively that was all their ideas. Sid TP were like, "Yo, we can wear sunglasses. We'll do it too. You do it." I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." I love putting on sunglasses anytime I can. As you get older, you get wrinkles and bags. So I was like, cover the eyes, I'm down, especially on camera. But it was their idea. It was just like, let's just be too cool for school in this. I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
oh, it was so good, and that
Following
was
your
the
lead,
teaser.
guys.
That was the teaser they used to announce the show. How
I
long was
know.
filming all in for all the episodes?
Dude, it was crazy the way we shotgunned it. The production staff, Carly and their team, like the way they put that unit together, phenomenal. Like they production, you have money and you have time and you have a lot of resources in making a television show. I'm not saying they didn't have any of those things, but they certainly didn't have like the budget and the time and the days that you should have to make a 10 episode show. So they killed it. I think we shot 6 or 7 days in Los Angeles in April, and then we shot all in Vegas, in LA, and in Vegas during All Star break in July. With summer league and everything going on in
Yeah.
Vegas as well. So we probably shot just under 15 days or so, or about there, to do 10 episodes. Like usually you need at least 2 or 3 days per episode. We had to cut that in half. Like it was crazy how they had to shotgun it.
And they did
But
it
they
during
were
the All-Star
troopers.
break? The
They
All-Star
did it.
break is, I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
and,
Because
like, at the
that's the
same
only
time,
time
Sid is
during the season they
yeah.
have time.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
saying, and Sid's playing, like,
Sit
traveling
and
and
play
practice, all that.
and focused on defending a title and
Yeah,
coming back and winning number two. And TP wasn't medically cleared to play yet, right? So TP was off. She wasn't with the Storm, and she was trying to get back medically. And so she was like, I have the time on my hand. Like I'm not with the team now. Plus it was the break, so it was just the perfect time to not infringe upon Sydney and to be respectful of the aces and Becky and Nikki and Natalie and Natalie and like they're and Asia and Chelsea and Kelsey and Jackie, like that, like you can't do that to that team, because the most important thing is playing basketball and defending a title. Like keep the main thing the main thing. So we wanted to be super respectful of the aces, the organization, and the other players who demand excellence from all 12 of their players and coaching staff. And like we weren't about to bite into Sid's time in that way. We had to find pockets where we could do it where they were off.
yeah, I mean, you guys crushed it. It came out so good, and in the time frame you did it, and they happened to win a championship through it, like,
Yeah.
that's a perfect year. That's a perfect year.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And
hopefully there's a season 2, that would
th-
be sick. We need
that's
more
what we're
content.
working on right now.
That would
Yeah.
be cool.
And
So
thank you to Sabrina Ionescu for poking a bear, right? Getting Sid fired up game 4. And then that moment with Holly and like the W and like the commissioner, Kathy, and like Holly calling Syd and TP the faces of the league while Asia Wilson standing right there and Brianna Stewart was on the losing end of that effort. Like, it's crazy. It's awesome. It honestly was beyond our wildest imagination that it all actually manifested.
Oh, it was like I was like, "This is, like, teeing it up perfectly for them."
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love that Sid had that
You
moment.
can't plan, you can dream of that. You can prepare yourself in so many ways to carry it out and to execute it, but you can't guarantee it. You can't plan for it. That shit happened. It happened because so many people really, really prepared and pushed for it. But it also happened because we had a lot of goodwill and luck on our side too, and like timing and like just
Yeah.
that perfect storm. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't always happen. It
Yeah.
almost
No,
never
I'm
happens for women. You know?
it doesn't, but I'm stoked that it happened to this group. It's a good group. I mean, it was been really cool to see as a fan, and now knowing how much work went into it, like, that's insane. 15 days, like, plus or minus, like, that's incredible.
Yeah.
During a
If
championship,
that.
like, repeat year, that's awesome. Is TP cleared now or
Yeah.
still okay,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, they'll both play Athletes Unlimited in Dallas, in in this winter, and then yeah, they'll both be back in the
Sweet.
league
That's
doing what
exciting.
they do.
Oh,
Yeah,
man, they're
we'll see where
hilarious.
they go. Like, we can't, the free agency's coming up in the W, and we'll see if they can reunite on the Aces and go for that three-peat. That'd be really nice if they can.
That'd be cool. I mean, that'd be great. That's great. One, that's great content, but also I think I
Yeah,
mean, I agree. I think Aces are gonna be in the finals again, and it'd be cool if Sid and
I do
TP
too.
are there for them.
Yep.
I'm curious. So switching gears really fast on all that, you represent. I know you have other W athletes on your roster, and you have like these other athletes that are coming in. I guess before I ask my question, do you have any college athletes, or is it just pros,
I
either
I
men or women?
usually Oh yeah, for men, yes. Like our agency Lift, we represent a couple of young men in college. KJ Lewis being one of them at Arizona, Hunter Salas being another at Wake Forest, and others. And then we also have like a really good crop of next geners, like these high school seniors right now. Carter Knox, who's at OTE, London Johnson with the G League Ignite, and then Trey Johnson, who just committed to Texas, and others that are these younger boys, Darion Reed, who's going to be making his announcement soon. He's coming out of prolific prep in Napa, Bay Area.
Area.
Like those boys, right? These boys are nice. Like, these are going to be future NBA, lottery picks in 2025 and 2026. So NIL, NCAA, yes. On the women's side, I usually sort of wait a little longer until a player's ready to leave college, ready to declare for the draft, and then we figure out if we want to work together. And I'm pretty selective. Like, I as much as I want to find opportunities for women, it's not easy. My bandwidth has to be spent on the boys and the men, right? I mean, our agency represents Paolo Banchero, Patrick Beverly. I do all of his media and podcasting and marketing, off court stuff. You know, those guys, we have the young Max Christie from the Lakers. Like, we have, stars that are already bona fide stars, that are media moguls and still playing basketball, like Pat. And then, guys that are sort of next generation. And then, I represent Cheryl Swoops. So, like, you got to give the OG time. You know what I mean? Mike Miller is part of our agency. We're launching his podcast, week of Christmas. We'll be down in Miami starting to shoot that. It's called The OGs with Udonis Haslam. It's going to be on Playmaker. I
Sick.
represent like Josiah Johnson. And so him and Gil's Arena with Underdog Fantasy. I have a super dope creator named Krista Jackson. If you're a TikToker, you know who she is. Was a Globetrotter, basketball influencer. So, like, there's a lot to focus on.
Yeah.
So, and that's, it's a big roster of 70 or so. And when you start to think about the women you want to work with, you got to like say to yourself, I want to work with women that I can find opportunities for and help, but I don't want to waste their time or mine. And
Yeah.
so to me, it's a little more of a selective process on the women's side. Look, the reality is, like, on the men's side, like, if you're a good basketball player, you're going to make a lot of money. And usually your marketing efforts are tied to your performance. And there's just so much money in men's college basketball and NBA that there are so many more opportunities and so many more brands willing to spend on men. So on the women's side, there's a smaller pot, and you got to work with player. I work with players that I think I can find opportunities for, paid and unpaid, but hopefully paid.
Yeah. No, I love that answer. Which leads me to my question, what's your advice to athletes, men or women who are like, "Hey, I love hooping, but, I know at the end of the day, hooping isn't gonna be the end all to be all." And whether they have like the comedy chops of like Sid or they want to be something that's more than, they want to go into acting, whatever it is. They want a life after basketball. Or they just want, let's call it what it is, a cash grab. They want to be represented. Like,
Yep.
what do you think with the, new wave of NIL, what's your advice to the young athletes that want that, they want an agent, they want a brand to sign them. Like, what's your advice to them to have that dream?
My advice to them is level set your expectations. Not everyone is going to get an agent. Not everyone needs an agent, but everybody certainly thinks they need one. And not everyone is representable. Um, I think it's easy for me to say that because like that's the hope. You hope that these young student athletes have the awareness that like they're not going to be in the pros, especially like not all very few college players are going to go to the NBA. Very few college players are going to go to the WNBA. So, if you're not an elite basketball player and you're a young man, it's okay. There might still be an opportunity for you while you're in college with those big fan bases and you might have an agent. And then if you're not going to be a pro, you're a man, you're probably going to be able to find a job. Um, for the
Preach.
women,
Yeah.
for the women, it's a lot harder to find to tap into those marketing budgets, and it certainly matters how elite you are at basketball. And if you are elite enough at basketball to go play in the W, you're going to take a lot less money. And I'm not making the argument that like there's no marketing for WNBA players like there is in college. I just mean like popularity of college campuses and college fan bases and how rabid they are and like how much brands are already sort of partnering with these schools and these collectives. There is more opportunity in that regard. And then, of course, I'm also talking about the CBA. So when you go into the league as a rookie, you are making 80 grand non-guaranteed for the first 3 years of your existence in the W, assuming you don't get cut, right? Which is very possible. Your money's not guaranteed. You can still get cut, but no one has to pay you out. So I think, but I will say this about the women. If the women are good in college and but they're not good enough to go into the pros, I mean, look at the Cavender twins. Look at like a
Mhm.
Deja Kelly or a Haley Van Lith. Like, I don't know if any of those girls are pros. I don't necessarily think they are, but they will make a lot of money as creators and influencers and trendsetters and brand ambassadors, regardless of their basketball eliteness or their basketball
Yeah.
performance. And I'll say that is a testament to these young women because they're really good at content. They're really good at this space. They get it in the way that you think Syd and TP do. These young cats coming up, they get it too. And like they can make a ton of money for themselves and make a really sort of unique niche career for themselves and not have to go work at enterprise like the boys who don't make the league or whatever, right? So I'm not saying they won't have traditional jobs. They will. But like there's just really cool opportunities for women who can transcend NIL and can transcend sports and become creators. Because if you can become a creator, there's a lot of opportunity, a lot more opportunity, and a lot more money as a woman doing it than if you're just a woman who's a basketball player.
That's true. I mean, I agree on all points, especially with the fact that the college fan bases are just way more intense than W. I mean, we talk about a different pod, but college fan bases are generational, right? Most of the time, like
Yeah,
it's family's so it's really hard to go up against that. I think my take is the W teams are still too new to have that like brand loyalty over generations. I think we'll probably see that in the next decade or so. But I mean,
they're
it's a great.
starting, right?
Yeah,
The Googles and the Deloittes and
yeah,
they're coming and the Mayels and they're there and now the Skims, like it's coming, it's happening, you're seeing it. It's gonna get better and better and better with every CBA, with every like announcement of expansion for years to come. It is like I said, I hope we never peak because I feel like we're definitely going in the right direction. I'm not making a statement that we weren't before, but we definitely are right
yeah.
now, and hopefully it just keeps climbing up.
Oh, no, no, I agree with you that I think we're gonna keep going. I hope we never peak. I hope it just continues to go up. I don't hope it defies science or whatever. We never
Right.
gravity never fucks us
Think
over.
of think of college. Like how long has like Michigan been here around, right? How long has Notre Dame been around? Like these are like centuries, a long time.
Yeah.
Like the WNBA is a baby. The
Oh,
WNBA is like it's nothing. It's a fraction. Like the NBA, they like they're like as a league, as an institution, colleges have so much time and legacy and tradition on them. Like the WNBA doesn't have or didn't have yet, but is starting to get and take some of that the piece of that pie. So it's coming, it's happening, and it'll continue to grow. But yeah, we're competing with like 100-year-old institutions who have all these things embedded and boosters and a lot of money and people wanting to give back and partners and brands and sponsors. Like, of course, it's going to take the WNBA a little bit of time to surpass that, and they will.
yeah, I think people forget the W is less than 30 years old. It's young.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
just had their 25th anniversary, like, it's still, like, you look at where the other leagues were at the 25th year, I think W mathematically, there's, like, a stat that's actually doing pretty well, but it is still really young. You said Pat Bev, which he is one of my favorite NBA players, just personality-wise, like, if that man's on my feed, I stop to see what he's up to because it's
Hmm.
hilarious. I
Yeah,
did
because you can't say that. You can't say that. That's what he always says. So when he says you can't say that, it's like, oh, you got to tune in, mute, like volume up.
yeah, I was like,
Because it's gonna,
anytime I
because
said, like,
it's
"Oh."
Roan saying something wild and Pat being like, you can't say it. You know what I mean? It's gonna be good.
He's so
Yep.
funny, like, that man is memeable. I think I have a few memes on my phone of just, like, him just being him. What is your favorite Pat Bev moment, like, that he's done, you're just, like, where you, like, truly just, like, laughed out loud?
Oh, well, I mean, I think everyone would say it's when I took him out to the seaport and he did the Chris Paul cone thing, and that really catapulted. That was his first couple of appearances on ESPN. That I think it was that fall, that spring. That was like May, and that catapulted the Barstool deal and Dave Portnoy being like, "I want this guy here." But honestly, my favorite Pat Bev moment, first of all the text messages that are just he don't slack a minute, and like he's on it and he's passionate and he's accountable. But honestly, my favorite thing that Pat did was when I was at ESPN, and I was in charge of booking talent. And Scott Van Pelt is a huge Pat Bev fan, and he wanted Pat to come on his show. So I was in LA. Pat was in LA, played for the Clippers at the time, and I brought him in to the studio, and we set him up at like a remote, like a glow point. And so he was, Scott's in DC at that time. He might have been in Bristol, and so it was a talk back, right? They weren't like together in the studio because we did it out of the LA studio, and you're taping it. It's going to air later during Scott's live show, right? His
Yeah.
11 p.m. Sports Center, midnight Sports Center. And so we're taping it. And so we get to like the 10-minute mark. That's short for an interview. Well, it's like 7-minute mark, which is short for an interview. And Scott asked his, series of questions. And then he's like, starting to say his goodbyes to Pat. And Pat was like, wait, 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 wait. No, 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 no. We're not done. You ask me more questions. He literally was like, you got me all the way out here in LA traffic. Like, let's keep going. Let's keep talking. Ask me more questions. That's so freaking rare. Most guys are like, I have a hard out after 8 minutes. I need to go. I'm not going to do
Yeah.
any more of this media, you know, shit. And Pat was like, no, let's keep going. Like, I want to do this. So Scott was like, all right, shit. And he threw out his paper, like his rundown. He had asked his questions and he just started like firing off questions that he's probably always wanted to ask an NBA player or specifically Pat. And I'm sitting there watching this taping happen just in awe. Like he on that day literally became my favorite NBA player. I was just like, I mean, I love Steph Curry.
Yeah.
But I was like, Pat Bev is my favorite dude. Like he is the best, the most fun. Like I want to book him for so much shit. One day I hope to work with him and here we are. So
That's cool. That is awesome. Respect to him, and honestly, that's the realest thing you could say is, "You got me out here through LA traffic, and you're gonna only spend 8 minutes with me?" Like,
yeah. And he invites the hard questions. He was like, "Oh, cupcake, like, yeah, ask me some questions. What's up?" Like he doesn't shy away. Like I said, he doesn't slack a minute. So he held
awesome.
Scott accountable, and Scott, being the true journalist that he is, SVP loved it. He was like, "Hell yeah, let's go." Threw the rundown out and went. Probably the producer in his ear was like, "I don't, you got this." So it was
That's
fun.
cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know we have a few more minutes, so I just wanna be respectful of your time, but I have a few, like, rapid fire fun questions. Um,
Okay.
Bay Area girl, we're both Bay Area, born and raised. What do you think the team name is gonna be for the W? If you had to pick it, like, what do you want it to be?
The Oakland Bays, but like BAE. No, no.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be Oakland, right? Are they going to play it in Oakland at Roracle?
That'd be sick.
I don't know. It's a good question. We've got the Golden State Warriors, so they're not going to do anything like genderish for Warriors. I can't imagine that would be dumb and
I hope
corny.
they don't do Lady
Um,
Warriors. That's just
they will not. Um, like Hawaii are the Rainbow Warriors, but that's cool.
yeah.
I actually grew up for a short time in Hawaii, so I have like an affinity for that school. Um, that's a good question. I don't know. What do you think it's going to be?
I've said a few different I honestly think it'll be Golden State something. I think they'll keep the Golden State as the front.
They won't give that tag to Oakland. It'll be Golden State.
I think they'll do Golden State. I think they're gonna play in Oakland. They love Oakland. Like the Warriors really do like love that. Like I know they left and they're across the bridge, but I really do think that's like gonna be like their homage to Oakland. Be cool if they did
Oh,
the
I thought they
town.
were playing at Chase. I thought they were
Oh
actually
no,
going to
they
play
are.
at
I
the
think they're
Chair
still gonna
Chase.
have a
Yeah,
lot. I think they're gonna claim
I
that's my
got you.
like prediction. I have no like saying this at all. It'd be cool, maybe I'm just biased, if they did something with Oakland because like how much they push for it. It'd be cool if it was the town. Something the town.
It should be like, yeah, it should be like Town Biz. I mean, it could. I could see them going like Oakland or like Golden State. I mean, they can't do Gold Rush unless they did like Oakland or San Francisco. I could see them doing something with like 49ers, like Gold Rush, like California, missions. But the town would be cool. Something with the town, like
Yeah.
also, I saw a movement. I think it was the trophy hunting guy, Dustin, doing, it was the Oakland A's and then it's going to be the Oakland Bees, right?
Yeah.
That's cool too. Like the Golden State Bees or something for the women. That would be sick. I like
That would
it.
be sick.
I also love that the Oakland A's are coming to Vegas because I live in Vegas and it helps my property value. So
That is true. Congrats on that.
I'm
I
a
do
Giants fan though, by the way. But
oh,
but go A's, go
oh,
A's, go
I'm a
A's.
Dodgers fan.
Yeah.
The Warriors are my only Bay team. I'm sorry. Minus Stanford's
Nah,
women's.
we gotta. I gotta go. You just said the
I'm sorry
Dodgers.
about Otani. I'm sorry.
Christ.
I know
You
I
paid
went to Giants game.
700 million for a DH. Dude may never pitch again.
It's wild. No,
Yeah.
I grew up going to Giants games and A's games. I always kind of liked the A's a little bit more. And then I've
Okay.
always liked the Dodgers. And then when I went to college in LA, I got free tickets to a Dodgers game because they were terrible. My school was giving them away. Went and I was like,
Hmm.
love this vibe.
Yeah.
And then they happened to win after that. I tend to like teams right before they're
Yeah.
going to win. So
Nice.
it's good
B-
timing.
baseball, like live baseballs. I don't love going to live games anymore. I for 15 years I did it so like Super Bowls and World Series and All Stars. I like to watch games, especially NFL, but certainly college basketball and NBA and WNBA. I like to go to WNBA games, but like I like to watch games on a television,
Yeah.
um, an actual TV like that maybe plugs into a wall, but like not my phone. Um, I don't like to be at game. I want the replay. Like I don't need all that anymore. So like for me, the one thing though that I love to do is baseball, outdoor baseball in the sun with a Dodger dog. That's cool. I'll do that all day.
Oh, outdoor baseball games, like, it just hits different. It's just
Yeah.
everything kinda just slows down in the best way. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
it's different
Yep.
I feel like I'm kinda I get anxious at games, like, I recently went to, the Chargers-Cowboys game at SoFi, and I was overwhelmed, like, I've gone to so many, like, different games, and I was like, "Am I at the point now where I'm getting, like, anxious?" And I've
Yeah.
also, like, worked games too, so I see them in different ways,
Yeah.
and it's rare that I get to enjoy a game, but I was like, "I'm, like, anxious, like, I wanna watch this on TV." Yeah,
Yeah. I have that happens to me too. I know what you're saying. Like I think it's certainly like common post COVID. I also think like, yeah, you get us to a certain age. Like I used to keep all my credentials. I've done so many live sporting events. Like, I don't care. Now, if the Niners are at Allegiant in the Super Bowl in Vegas, I'm going to go. But like, I don't need to go to live games anymore. I'd much prefer to have the replay. I like the commentators. Like I said, I grew up, my dad, like watching games, listening to my grandpa used to listen to baseball games on the radio, like a little dial.
mhm.
Like I grew up listening to like Marv Albert and like Mike Breen and like
Mike Breen.
in football, like the Al Michaels of the world and the John Maddens of the world. Like I want to listen to that. Like that is how I learn the sport and
Same.
have and understand stats and understand players and understand storylines. Like that was always important to me. So that's how I like to consume sports now.
I mean, I agree. That's the best way.
Yep.
You brought up NFL, I gotta ask. So you're a Niner fan. You think
100%.
you think they go all the way this year?
Yeah, I mean the Eagles are stumbling a little. We beat their asses last week, and then the Cowboys handed them one. And I hate the Cowboys, but good job, boys. So the Eagles are crying a little bit. Kansas City's. Ugh, I don't
Also
know if Taylor
crying
Swift
as
was a good thing or a bad thing. The Bills are keeping themselves around. I don't worry too much about them. I like the Dolphins. I think Dolphins are coming out of the AFC. But I think it's really Niners, Eagles. I thought Detroit had a chance. They've fallen off a little bit. So I honestly think it's Niners to lose. And I think it could be, we could see like an homage to the 80s. Niners, Dolphins in a Super Bowl again. That's dope.
That would be cool. That's good colors. I honestly thought it was either gonna be, I think it's I am a Cowboys fan, but I am a realist and that I don't see us beating the Niners in the playoffs because we haven't.
Yeah, I
I
didn't even mention the Cowboys
Yeah,
because I don't mention them.
yeah, fair enough. I mean, I grew up in the Bay and I was a Cowboys fan. That is where
That's
I got my thick skin to talk shit
tragedy.
for sports. Just
Yeah.
growing, I know. It is the one thing when
You
people find
got,
out
did
about
you
me.
get bullied? Yeah, did you get picked on? Because,
Oh, I got it's what's hilarious is I learned very early how to talk shit for sports because of that, being a Cowboys fan in the Bay. Like you just get a thick skin. And like that's the one thing, like football, like other sports, okay, but football I can talk just because I've had it since I was like what, kindergarten, just people talking and family members too, because everyone I know is a Niner fan. But I
yeah,
think it made me tougher. I love it. It's fun. But I do say the Niners have our number.
sure.
So
Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Roger Craig, T.O., Dion.
yeah.
Man,
Those are good years. I mean, I could chat with you all day, so I appreciate you coming
yeah.
on. I appreciate you taking the time out. I know it's still early over there in Vegas. So, um, what is one thing real quick that you are super stoked about, whether it's the women's game across college or pros? And then who do you think, just final four predictions, way too early. Who do you think
Mm.
does it?
Women's Final Four.
Yeah.
I mean, South Carolina's going to be there. I'm not betting against Angel and LSU, not at all, especially with that roster. Um, I would think Stanford's going to get there. UConn, I mean, without AZ, we just got to, if Paige can stay healthy, they've got a shot. But I think, you know what? Watch out for like a Texas A&M, like Notre Dame could be kind of sneaky. I'll pick Iowa. Like I don't know if I can put Iowa in. I would say solid like South Carolina and Stanford. I think are gonna get there. I think like LSU and Iowa. I don't really want to bet against Angel and Caitlin, and I just don't think UConn's healthy enough.
Yeah.
And I don't think they'll have like strength of schedule. So I think those four. I think South Carolina, Stanford, LSU, Iowa. I honestly in Vegas will put money on those teams.
There you go. I mean, I think, I mean, as a Stanford fan, I appreciate that. I would love that, especially Brink senior year, because I think she's gonna declare. By the way, if you ever
But she's
represent
got
her,
another years. I
she
do
has
not.
another
She's
year,
represented
but I think
by
she
CAA.
declares. Yeah, she's got another year, but I can see her declaring because I mean, although the freshmen she's playing with are good, that she might be like, I could do one more, but she's also already won in the
Yeah, they
college.
won in 2021, right?
Yep.
And she seems to have a great relationship with Tara. Tara's a legend. I grew up in the Bay in the shadow of Stanford. Like it was always my dream to go play there. I wasn't good enough. Academically, I'd have been fine, but yeah, I couldn't play basketball there. Um, I don't know if she's coming out. I will say this: I think Caitlin's coming out because I think Caitlin would be super fine and happy to play in Indianapolis, and to get to play with Aaliyah Boston. They
Yeah.
could be like Carl Malone and John Stockton, Gary Payton and Sean Kemp for the next 15 years. When I say Sean Kemp and Gary Payton and Carl Malone and John Stockton, they were an amazing duo historically, but they never won it. And I think Indiana is going to have the same sort of issue. I think you draft Caitlin, you keep them together as a core. I don't know that Indiana ever gets a championship in their tenure, but I do think they could go down as one of the great WNBA duos of all time. I don't know what you care about more, personal records or WNBA championships. I know what I care about.
Yeah.
If I am Paige Beckers, Cam Brink, Angel Reese, I have the LA Sparks, the Phoenix Mercury, the Seattle Storm as the three teams I could go to. Oh, I'm coming out. Those
Yeah.
are storied franchises in the W. Um, but if they stay too, like get your money. Like all of them can make a shit ton of money in college. So if they want to stay and they want to, go for another chip and finish their education, get a master's, all for that too. But I think if I'm a kid and I see those three teams sitting in the lottery, hell yeah, because there's no guarantee next year. Next year maybe it's going to be Dallas and Connecticut and Atlanta in the lottery. And like I'm just saying, I'm just making this up, and I'm not saying they're bad places to go, but those cities, those markets
Yeah.
certainly are not LA, Phoenix, Seattle. And I'm a West Coaster, so I'd
Yeah,
rather
no,
be
I
out
was thinking
here.
about it. I was like, this is probably one of the best, minus Indiana. We all know Caitlin goes, she's going one, she's going to Indiana. But those other cities are great, like marketing cities. Those are big city, big markets for
Content
them.
too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm excited. I think I would love for Brink to stay on the West Coast. I mean, there was a
I would like to see Brink in Seattle, honestly. I think Brink in Seattle, she could be the next Stewie there.
I would love that. I am a Storm fan just because the Bay didn't have a team growing up, so I rooted for the Storm
Hold
because
on, you're a Stanford fan, a Storm fan, a Cowboys fan, a Dodgers fan
yup, I know.
from the Bay.
Yeah.
I am confused.
I know. That's what everybody says. And then because hilariously enough, for NWSL, I picked Portland just because there was only West Coast team. I didn't really like the rain. And then Angel City got a team, and I was like, okay, I love LA. And now that Bay FC's coming, I think I'm still gonna root Angel City just because, and this is like my own opinion, I'm not a fan of the Bay FC branding and like the rollout. Like
Mm,
I don't feel connected to it.
okay.
Um, but they're
I'm
playing in
gonna
San
I'm gonna
Jose.
root for Ali Krieger's team, and now I know she
Yes.
doesn't have a team because he retired.
Oh,
So I don't know who I'm gonna root for, but I was
well, I
team
was an Ellie
Ali all
Krieger
the way.
fan. I love her. I mean, she has my favorite number, so I love and she does the bun, and I do a bun when I play. So I was like yeah, the bun, I was like, I just love her, and, she won on my birthday. I was like, I just Ellie Krieger fan club. Which is she is
She
nice in
won.
person.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, like she's well spoken and smart and uh so likable and cute and also like hot and like elite as an athlete, right? And like stunning and like her like soccer players' bodies. It's just like how are you so perfect? Like how does this happen? Like what are you eating? And like tell me, what is your secret?
Yeah.
Like they're and I know they're cardio all day, but they're all just so fit and so strong and but still like feminine if they want to be or strong and athletic if they want to be. So I don't know. Soccer players are tremendous. I have so much respect for them. It's a sport that like I'm never going to run that much, and I'm so much better with my hands than with my feet. But I don't know. Like, yeah, no, she's great, and her brother, like, they're her family, like, they're great people. They're awesome people, and everything that she's had to overcome this year,
Yeah.
um, and still win one, like doing it her way, and then going out, retiring, like with that chip. That's dope.
I mean, that's the way you wanna
Yeah.
go out. You wanna go out on top. I think that's
That's
awesome.
sports, yeah.
That is
That's like
sports.
that's like the best story in sports. Like
That's
that's you can't script it better.
Nope. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I'm super excited for all this stuff. Like I said, you're I didn't even get into the accolades of all the shit that you've done, which I'm gonna do in
It's
the
okay.
intro. So I'm just gonna list and bullet point them off. But thank you. And yeah, I hopefully, I'll see you somewhere. Are you gonna be at the All-Star game, NBA All-Star game in February?
I'm not gonna be at the game
Okay.
because I again, I would rather watch that on television. I will be there Thursday and Friday. Actually, Syd and TP will be there. We're doing like I can't say too much about it now,
Yeah.
but they're gonna be out there doing something really special on the 15th. So yeah, maybe we'll see you out there.
Sweet. Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I'll see you next time.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.